All right, welcome to day 2 of your STAAR Blitz. So today is going to be all about slope and rate of change. Okay, so this should be a little bit of an easier day than yesterday. So if you did not finish yesterday's, just go back and finish that after today's assignment. All right, so the graph of a linear, we're going to go over the warm-up first. So the graph of a linear function is shown on the grid. Which of the following is true? Select 3 correct answers. So you need to select 3 of these. Okay. The first one says the slope of a line is negative. So when I'm looking at this line, I need to read it from the y-axis, and then what direction is it going from there? Well, as I read it from the y-axis, it's going down. Okay, so if it's going down, that is going to be a negative slope. All right, so that means that this one is one of the answers you are going to select. All right, the slope of the line is positive. Well, no, we just determined it was negative, okay? When the change in x is 2, the change in y is negative 6. So what it's saying is when I change along the x-axis 2 units, I change along the y-axis negative 6 units. Okay, so let's go to a point. So we have this 5 right here. And then if I go along the x-axis 2, so 1, 2, I should go down negative 6 is what it's saying, because y-axis goes up and down, and then negative tells me I should go down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I do hit a point there, so that is going to be correct. So if the change in y is negative 6 and the change in x is 2, remember your slope is whatever the change in y is over the change in x. So that's negative 6 over 2. And if we simplify that, that is a negative 3 slope. All right, so that would mean that this is your last correct answer. But we could totally rule out the last one because it should be a negative slope, and this just says it's 1 over 3. All right, so then that would only leave, if you were confused about this one right here, that would only leave that one as the other option. So that could help you there. All right. The graph shows the amount of water that is collected in a tank over the span of a week during a rainy season. What is the rate of change in the depth of water per day? So remember, rate of change is the same thing as slope. So when we are given the line, okay, we're going to count the rise over run. All right, so I'm going to pick a point. So there's a point here. Okay, I'm going to pick the next point, which is here. And so I need to make sure I'm careful on what the units are, by the way. All right, so making sure that you are looking at the x and y axis to determine what, how much it's jumping up by. So if I jump up here, I go up, I rise only 5 units, because over here, if I jump 2, it's jumping by 10s, and half of 10 is 5. So I rise 5 units, and then I run one entire rectangle length, which that is 1 to 2, so that is going to add 1. So our slope here should be 5, okay? And it's 5 inches per day, okay? If you just put 5, that'll be counted, but 5 inches per day, whatever, okay? So whenever we have a graph, we're going to count the rise over run, okay? Just make sure you're looking at the axis and how much they're jumping up by. It's not always going to be 1. All right. Contractors' total earnings from a job include a fixed amount plus an amount based on the number of hours worked. The value in table represents the linear relationship between the number of hours worked and the contractor's total earnings in dollars. What is the rate of change? So again, it's looking for slope, which is your M value, okay, of the contractor's total earnings in dollars with respect to the number of hours worked. So right here, because it's talking about linear, because it wants slope, this should be a list in spreadsheets question. All right. So if you are unaware on how to use lists and spreadsheets and how to find the linear equation for that, again, if you go to our spreadsheet, okay, and on the second half down here, there are tons and tons and tons of videos. If you go to day 2, okay, rate of change, and this first video, this linear regression / table, this YouTube video underneath will teach you how to do the calculator trick on how to find slope from a table. Okay, so when you do that, okay, you should get that the answer is A. Okay, there is a way you can solve this by hand. You find the change in Y, so you would do 63.75 minus 20 all over the change in X, so 5 minus 0. Okay, so when you subtract those and then divide by 5, you will get that it's 8.75 hours or dollars per hour. Okay, all right, so that would be like 43.75, and then I divide it by 5 and get 8.75. All right. All right, so let's talk about just little things, rate of change, which is your slope. Okay, all right, so here's a slope band. So if you ever question, like if it's positive, negative, okay, that if it goes up and down, it's an undefined slope. If it goes left or right, it's a 0 slope. Okay, so this is a great, this right here is pretty much all you need to know. Positive slopes, negative slopes, vertical lines, horizontal lines, okay. All right, and then this is how you find slope if you want to do it by hand, the change in Y over the change in X. So here is the formula right here. So you take 2 Y values, subtract them, take 2 X values, subtract them, and you get, and then you divide them, get your slope, okay? But we do our table trick, okay? So this is, again, finding slope in a table, but we know the calculator trick, so stick to the calculator trick, okay? All right, how would you explain finding slope in a graph to a struggling teammate? Okay, so I want you to turn to someone, all right, and you're going to explain to them how you would find slope, okay? So each of y'all explain to each other, okay? We're going to pause the video, and then y'all explain, and then we'll restart the video. All right, so what you should have, in the words of saying, pick 2 points on the graph, okay? And then rise over run, okay? So I rise 1, okay, but I run to the left 3, okay? So because I rise 1, that's positive, all right? But because I go to the left 3, that's what makes it negative, okay? So this is going to be a negative 1 over 3 slope. All right, so you just get 2 points, count the rise over run, and then determine if it should be positive or negative. All right, slope in the real world. All right, the graph below shows the relationship between the number of hours read and the number of pages left in the book. Okay, so it's based on what the X and Y axis are labeled with. Okay, so it takes them 40 pages in 5 hours. Okay, so the slope of the line being -8, well, this means that the number of pages left decreases by 8 per hour. So pretty much they read 8 pages per hour. So the amount of pages they have left before they finish the book is determined by that slope. Okay, all right, so it's just based off of what the axes are labeled with. So like this turn and talk says the graph shows the relationship between temperature and elevation. Landon found that the rate of change in temperature with respect to elevation is -20 degrees Fahrenheit. But is Landon correct or incorrect? So in order to know this, okay, you would need to know the slope. You need to know if it's actually going to be -20. Now it is negative, so you know that's correct. But in order to know if it is -20, you would need to pick 2 points and find out how much they are, it's declining by, okay? So if I pick these 2 points, okay, it's I rise 5, okay, because these are jumping up by 10, so each dash mark is 5. Okay, so I rise 5, but then I run, okay, to the left, so that's what makes it negative. I need to figure out what this is, what interval this is. Well, if I go from 9,000 to 9,500, and there is a line, there are 4 lines in between. Well, this means that this is 9,100. This is 9,200, 9,300, 9,400. Okay, so they're jumping up by 100 intervals. So 100. All right. So if I rise 5 and then run 100, okay, to the left, so that's negative, that's not going to be negative 20. That's going to be negative 1 over 20. Okay, so that's where he's incorrect. So the negative is correct. It is going to decline. Okay, as the elevation increases, the temperature is going to decrease, but it's decreasing by a 1 over 20 rate of change. All right. So I don't mind you using your list and spreadsheets for these questions right here. Okay, determine the slope, so you're counting rise over run. This one, you're trying to find your rate of change based on the equation that it gives you. Again, another list and spreadsheets. Okay, so this one is a little different. This one's going to ask you on number 5. Let's see what I asked. State one point on the coordinate plane that represents this rate of change. So it already gives you one ordered pair. Okay, so you're going to graph that ordered pair, so 0, 10, which is already plotted right there. And then it's saying that your rate of change is in there. So you got to figure out which one's your rate of change. Okay, remember per and each determine what your slope is. Okay, so per and each are both slope words. So whenever you see those, that is probably the number that's going to be your slope. So it's wanting to know just another ordered pair on that line. So you just have to pretty much find another point on this line. Okay. All right. So I just want you to select 1, even though it's asking for 2. Okay. And then you're going to write it in there using parentheses, no spaces. Write the ordered pair. All right. Same thing for number 6. Okay. This one says select 3 incorrect values. Okay. All right. So that's what you're going to do. Again, it's saying that your rate is 1.5 per minute. Okay. So you're trying to see which value, some of the Y values in the table are incorrect. So you got to figure out which of these are incorrect based on the rate of change it gives you. All right. So I hope this helps me explaining those. Good luck.